everybody, you are listening to the History Boys. Thank you so much. I, as always, am Christopher Whedon. I am a history boy, and you know what, gang? Sometimes certain things in life don't work out the way that we expect them to, you know? Little hurdles and hiccups are thrown our way. I, for example, got COVID and recovered since the last time we were here, so I barely left the house. Yeah. So I'm going to be extra weird, I'm sure. Extra, bizarrely antisocial and saying a lot of inappropriate things because I just don't know better, you know? Speaking of people like that, Tyler won't be here either because he got caught robbing a bank because he's not good at it.
He bungled the
job. You know, the real problem is he tried to rob the bank while in full COVID symptoms as well. And that got the police there real quick. Fauci showed up. It was a whole thing.
That's how they got him. He tried to go in to rob it, and they checked his temperature.
Yeah. That's how they got him. They're like, wait a minute. You have a fever and a gun pointed at me.
More
I didn't notice that.
Fever.
Yeah. You can't come in here with that fever.
Yeah.
That's the first. This is America. You bring that gun wherever you want. But.
And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy, as always. Thank you so much for listening as we move on to Ludwig Van Beethoven, Part 3. And joining us again for the last episode of this series.
Yeah.
Mr. Aaron Weed.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, I am Aaron Weed, honorary history boy, here for my third and final guest spot here. Well, not final.
Well, you're going to replace Tyler now.
But yeah, my name is Tyler, and I am a COVID boy. No, I'm back. I am a little bit. I'm also might be a little bit weird, but for other reasons, I agreed to play a show last night, and forgetting that I'm not 25 years old anymore, and so I played a show and then still had to be up at 5:30 in the morning this morning. So yeah, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a train and was like, all right, here we go. And all my students were like, you look tired.
They're like, no.
That's because I am.
That's because I am tired. Thank you. It was great. Show went great. And
Good. So last we left you, Beethoven was riding the wave of his heroic period. One that he would have two more symphonies left, his seventh and his eighth, including a few other notable pieces. But last we left you, we were also in 1812 with the Immortal Beloved Letter. Just sort of reminding you of that, because right after he sees all of this success, he kind of goes through this point in his life where he is unproductive, he is very depressed, he goes to Baden in 1813. He's basically homeless there.
Yeah, I know how it feels, except that I didn't have the productive period before.
Yeah, he's while he's in Baden, a few of his friends see him there, the strikers, who are these piano makers in Vienna. They saw him and they're like, dude, the guy had, they said half a shirt on, holes in his coat, and he's just he's clearly depressed, but he's acting like shit is normal,
Yeah.
And multiple people saw him, they're like, he is in the most deplorable state. They saw him sitting by himself in this inn, and he would walk out without paying and be like, my brother's gonna take care of it.
Cool.
But the thing about this bizarre period in his life is that he got this odd encounter. This kind of a huckster. His name was Johann Nepomuk Meltzel.
That sounds like the name of a huckster.
Yeah. He was this sort of pseudo-inventor, engineer, kind of a showman kind of guy. He said he invented the metronome, which is not true.
Huh.
I imagine also a time machine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna send Marty back into the future or whatever. Yeah,
Marty,
he's
you
kind of
gotta
like
go back in time and invent the metronome.
yeah, he's kind of a guy like that, and like he finds like down and out Beethoven like kind of on the street, and he's like, I got a proposition for you. Not only can you use this metronome, because Beethoven always hated using the Italian wave for, what do you call it, Aaron?
Sorry, I was actually looking up the history of the metronome to see what
how fast a song is.
tempo.
Tempo. There you go.
There you
Tempo.
go.
My
Yeah,
God.
yeah. No, leave
why
that
was I
in,
blanking
Chris.
on that?
Okay.
Leave that all in.
He's like he found Beethoven and he was like, I got this thing for counting tempo that's way more precise, you know. And Beethoven had never heard of the metronome, so it was this thing that was like a game-changing thing because he detested the way the Italians denoted tempo. Like, you know, what is really allegro at the end of the day? You know, what is andante at the end of the day? You know what I mean? It sort of depends, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, because it's like, I mean, they all mean something, right? Andante means like walking pace,
Right.
you know, and all those things. I don't know. You just
So like
feel it out, I guess.
Yeah, for a little bit, like, Beethoven put metronome markings on some of his music. And it was only on, like, I think, like, one or two pieces. But it was clear to everyone, even now, that it is at a breakneck speed. Like, people even think that maybe Beethoven's metronome that he got from this huckster guy was a working metronome, or if it was broken in some way, because it's ridiculously fast. Everyone plays this shit slower. You know. He's also like, Napoleon was just defeated by Wellington. We gotta like cash in. And like make like a big song, you know, to celebrate that, right? And so like the timing was perfect, and Beethoven like premiered the 7th or not the 7th, but the 8th and Wellington's Victory. And like Wellington's Victory was this big hit. And it's like today people call it like kitsch and novelty and, you know, a piece of fucking propaganda, which it is. But it was a big hit, and it skyrocketed Beethoven back to like fame and prominence. Like in May of 1813, he was basically homeless in Baden, and like December of 1813, he was back on top. You know what I mean? And like they were
like
reviving
Elvis.
a lot of his shit. Yeah, right. It was sort of a reinvention. Yeah.
Came back with a gut and a sparkly jacket.
Yeah.
And then died on the toilet.
Yeah.
Died on the toilet.
Now, 1814 was a big year for Beethoven. He made a lot of money. He kind of had some shady business dealings. He was doing like that Haydn scam where like, you know, he'd give it to multiple people and then cash in the money, and then like they'd get pissed off, and he was like, that's on your end, pal.
That's business, baby.
Yeah. But he did it so often that people, you know, saw through it. People commissioned things from him that he never actually fulfilled. Things like this. But, you know, he actually sued the metronome guy for ownership of Wellington's Victory. Because he was like, that's mine. That was my idea.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I wrote it, pal. You know, I can have ownership over this.
It's like Facebook.
Yeah, right.
It's like he's the Winklevosses.
And around this time of sort of lucrative business, I guess, he kind of wrote a lot of that drivel. You know what I mean? Like these battle sort of marches, I guess, or pieces. You know what I mean? And a lot of like critics now and then were like, that was an area of just like really minor, not very good Beethoven works. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you got to pay the bills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Even Mr. I write music for the connoisseur. You know, kind of a thing.
I will say this though, like one of his, more famous pieces that a lot of people they hear all the time because kids' toys love to play it and things. Is his Turkish March, right?
Which was probably
which is
written
like,
during this time, right?
It's that one that's like bra dun 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 bra dun 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 dun
yes.
dun. That one, right?
Yeah.
And that actually was pretty interesting in a time period of like all like Western music, because if you want, you could trace that period of like European Western music to later on sort of anything we have today that involves cymbals or drums and things like that, because the Turkish people had invented cymbals. They were, in fact, if you look it up, I think the Zildjian cymbal company is like 400 years old. Like,
Jesus.
They're like seriously old.
That's super cool.
but we didn't use anything like that in like the Western side. In like European music, they didn't use any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why that march caught on so well was because in the like, sort of, if you were to call it a chorus, this like repeated refrain in the middle, he uses like big loud drums and like cymbal crashes and all this stuff that was super kind of out of context for that stuff normally.
Right.
That led to, honestly, a lot of the sort of American band tradition. Later, even the invention of the drum set. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
I was listening to the Seventh Symphony while I was driving the other day.
It's good.
Like the final movement of that, I knew I first learned in cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's super, like, high energy.
Yeah.
That's one thing. It's funny, a lot of my colleagues, like, legitimately lament the fact that Looney Tunes aren't around anymore because so many of us, our first exposure to a whole bunch of classical, masterpieces was through Looney Tunes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Wellington's Victory isn't really played much today anymore, but in it, to represent the British side, he used Rule Britannia, like he interwove that in there to represent the British, and he used Marlborough Saint-Vatenguier. Marlborough has left for the war for the French side. He would have used La Marseillaise, which was used in the 1812 overture, but it was illegal to use that song in Vienna at the time because it was a police state, right?
Yeah.
The Seventh, being like my favorite, it's crazy because people thought at the time, even though the Seventh was very lauded in its time, they thought that the Seventh was more like a companion piece to Wellington's Victory, and which is super nuts. And people were sort of mystified by 8, you know what I mean? The Eighth Symphony, where like in the second movement it's actually like this fantasy of destroying a metronome,
right?
Which is hilarious. He would even say, like, when he asked people, like, "Oh, did they like the Eighth?" And they're like, "Not so much." And he was like, "Well, that's probably because it's so much better than all the other stuff."
Yeah, it might be a little advanced for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. He would even say, like...
But your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah, basically that. He would say, like, well, it's not written for now, it's written for a more sophisticated future time. It's like, okay, buddy. Now, as far as the people that attended the performance, they said a lot of things, like that it was incredibly loud. Everybody said it was incredibly loud. There was over 100 musicians. It was a huge thing. Not a lot of people did that before this, just more and more musicians. And one person even said that it was seemingly designed to make the listener as deaf as its composer. Some people described... What was that?
I just said that's a good burn.
Yeah. Some people called it a musical arms race for the ever louder symphonic performance, which sounds just fucking badass. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. No, I'm curious about the timeline of that, though, right? Because there were two things. Haydn wrote these, right? The Song for the Royal Fireworks and Water Music. Those are Haydn, aren't they?
Haydn wrote one based off of the British the British rule Britannia. In fact, it was made the German national anthem afterwards, and it sounds very British.
Oh, that's Handel. Forget it. Take my degree away. That was later.
Didn't Haydn write something that was totally based off of Rule Britannia?
No, yeah, he did. I was just thinking of Handel wrote 2 pieces of music that were both loud and using lots of, and I mean, this is beforehand, right? This is pre Beethoven. This is in like what would have been, whatever Handel would have been, what, like 1750, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, he wrote these 2 pieces that were commissioned. For one, they did a huge fireworks display on like I don't remember, some big London lawn, and they wanted music to accompany it. So he wrote this piece of music, but it needed to be really loud because of the fireworks.
Right.
So it was a lot of performers. It was a lot of wind instruments. It was like much louder than most stuff. And he also wrote another one called Water Music. That was, man, now I'm digging into my history knowledge here a little bit as much as I can. I did not prepare it all. This is all off the cuff.
That's
but
good.
it was around the same time, and it was whatever the heck king it was then. George, I don't know. But this guy was doing like a trip like up the Thames, and he wanted music to accompany him. So they actually towed the musicians on a barge behind the king's boat.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and the best part is the king got all fucking drunk and loved the music and made the boats go up and down the river like 13 times and made these musicians play it every time.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's way we were talking about in an earlier episode, that like getting drunk, coming home, and like blasting music. That's what he was doing. He was just like, play that song again.
Keep going.
Exactly. He was just all drunk on a boat. It's like, hell yeah, let's keep this party going. But that one, it was significant also because since it was so wet, there couldn't be any string instruments. So it was all wind instruments. And it's one of the first times in Western music that we, as far as I know, I don't know. Well, one of the first times in a major piece like that we see it's all wind instruments. It's not, or very limited strings or something like that. But, but again, very loud and whatever. And at this point with Beethoven anyway, that stuff would have at least been out, that kind of stuff would have been out there enough for him to consider sort of experimenting with. And then plus his experimentation with like Turkish instrumentation and all that. Yeah, he was just pumping it up. And string instruments are quiet. So when you start adding wind instruments, like you need to then like double your string section to have the the capacity to put up against more wind and percussion. So he was just stretching it out a little bit. I think.
Like once kind of the heat, kind of came down after like Wellington's victory and all this patriotic shit. People started to be like, all right, that's all just kind of a bunch of fluff, right? It's
once
not
the
really
fervor died down.
Yeah, exactly. And once like the papers started saying this kind of shit, he responded with, quote, "What I shit is better than anything you could ever think up." End quote.
He's such a dick.
He's a fucking dickhead, man. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah. But it was a very profitable year nonetheless. But the thing is that Beethoven's real style sort of started going out of favor. Like what made Beethoven started kind of going out of favor. There was a short time when everybody was interested in this sort of backpedaling neoclassical, what they call Biedermeier, meaning some basic, ordinary, like neoclassical that was like a decade ago.
Basic ass music,
Yeah, and that's what people liked for a short amount of time, probably because they just went through like this like world-changing Napoleonic trauma.
Right.
Just give me the same 4 chords. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a thing, right? For sure. Like we talked about this last time, right? Where I honestly believe that Beethoven was sort of, in a lot of ways, the birth of this idea of like, well, if you don't like it, you just don't get it. Like this sort of elitism in music, right? And that will always, I think, inspire innovation in artists. Like that kind of weirdness someone will always find an inspiration in it. But by and large, people want something that they can kind of predict where it's going. Like they want it's why we like those 4-chord songs so much. It's because even if it's a brand new song, something you never heard, if it's using those 4 chords, we at least have some kind of idea of where it's going. It feels a little familiar no matter what, right? So I think like there's always going to be both happening all the time, and at any moment you can look at any point in music history and you can find examples of both, really, but especially around this time in like areas like Vienna, right?
Oh yeah, I think that all art and media, I think the stuff that like feels comfortable, a lot of people rag on, but it's like, there's a reason it's popular, is that familiar sense, whether it's, not just music, but movies, and there's a reason why Marvel does so well, is there's a certain familiarity there.
Absolutely.
You know what you're gonna get.
I have mountains of music theory training and knowledge. I have like years and years and years of detailed classical, jazz, whatever theory, right, that I can dig into, and I write music all the time. But you know what? A very large percentage of the stuff that I write is 4-chord songs. For instance, the big like orchestral section at the very end of the Morris Navis EP, that's 4 chords. That's a 4-chord song, 100%. Awesome. It was like dope. It was just a 4-chord. I was like, I want it to feel like big and familiar and like whatever, and I just blew. I was like, whatever. I'll just build this huge sound off of these 4 chords. It's a 4-chord song, 100%. Like, it's really easy to make it sound good,
I think that's a big part of it.
People want to like relate to it, like understand it, especially going through times of like strife, to be able to like let me relate to something outside of me and make somebody feels like me, right? After 1814, shit went downhill for Beethoven pretty fast. The reasoning was because of him, but it had to do with his brothers. He always, when they grew up and stuff, he took care of the family, right? He was the breadwinner. He always thought of himself as some sort of like caregiver and rescuer, right, from being a pauper, right? So he was really controlling with his 2 brothers, Caspar Karl and Johann. He did not want either of them to get married to the people that they chose to get married to, right? He totally objected, right? This woman that Johann actually hired as a housemaid first, her name was Therese Obermeier. She was a housemaid, and she was sort of taking care of him at night as well as day, right?
I get it.
But when Beethoven found out about this, he got so pissed off that he got the local bishop and the cops and like a couple other people. They went to his house in the middle of the night, kicked the door open, and he goes, "There she is, get her out of here." And like they grabbed her and pulled her out of, and like they're like, "You're not getting married to some common harlot," and like all this stuff. And he goes, like, Johann's freaking out, right? And he's like, "To despite you, I will get married to her."
Well, now I'm gonna.
Well, the problem is he sort of realized really quick that he didn't really want to marry Therese Obermeier. And so he was sort of forced into a marriage he didn't really want. So, again, like, this all has to do with Ludwig, right?
I like that all of this, both of their behaviors, every decision was fueled by spite and revenge.
Yeah, spite and revenge.
Like, there's no rational thought at any point from any of them. Just completely fueled by
Yeah, like the wrong thing to do. It was his other brother, however, that it made that treatment even look like kind of a walk in the park. His other brother, Caspar Karl, he married a woman named Johanna Rees. Even though she was kind of from a decently well-to-do family, Ludwig considered her not just a commoner, but he compared her to a prostitute. He accused her of being a prostitute on multiple occasions. And, all of these were sort of delusional.
I feel like Ludwig implied a lot of people were prostitutes.
Yeah.
At one point or another.
Yeah. So he opposed that marriage, and she was already pregnant when they were gonna get married. And he was just totally offended by that. And he didn't realize that he was basically being like his grandfather, what he did to his father, right? And it's like, again, cascading trauma,
Familial trauma going from generation to generation.
Yeah. Something I didn't bring up, it just goes to show just kind of what a petty asshole Beethoven could be. His brother Johann sent him a letter one time, and just sort of friendly. He was like, I just bought a house, and he was really excited about it. And at the bottom, he wrote, "From your brother Johann, landowner." Like, he was proud of what he's done. And in the reply letter back, his brother was very dismissive, and Ludwig signed, "From your brother Ludwig, brain owner." Which is a solid roast. I'll give him that.
That's pretty good. I feel like his zingers feel very modern in that sense.
Yeah.
Right?
He was ahead of his time in more than one way. Not just music.
He was just an ahead of his time comedian is all he was. What if Beethoven just thought he was hilarious? Like thought himself was hilarious?
I think he totally did. He would laugh at himself all the time.
Nobody else thought it was.
No.
Everybody else just thought he was a dick, and honestly, maybe he was ahead of his time. Modern day, he would have been like a king of comedy,
He would have been like Andy Kaufman now.
He would have been like Paul F. Tompkins, like the king of roasts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There you go.
The roast master.
He would be the roast master general for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, November 15th, 1815. Caspar Karl's baby was born, and they named him Karl. And the thing was about Caspar Karl is that he was dying of
tuberculosis.
Beethoven.
Oh wait, Jerry, the consumption.
Yes, the consumption. Yes.
I want to make it good. A fan pointed out that we referenced tuberculosis recently, and I didn't call it the consumption. And, I haven't been sleeping well since then.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of us in modern capitalism die of the consumption, but it's a different.
It's a more brutal way to go, I promise.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
He was a lunga, as they'd say in Tombstone.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, you shop at supermarkets all the time or on Amazon all the time. You're nothing but a yellow lunga.
Yeah.
Ludwig supported his brother, Caspar Karl, while he was sick. He gave him a bunch of money to keep him alive, basically, to keep him and his family alive. And when Caspar Karl died, his will said that Ludwig would be the main guardian.
Oops.
Yeah, and I think the reason why is because he gave them all their money for that stretch of time.
Because he gave them the money.
Yeah.
Right.
However, there was a codicil that was added to the will afterwards, while Caspar Karl was still alive, that basically said, this doesn't mean I want to split, I want my son to go with Ludwig and not see his mother. I want them both to be his guardian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
It just never said, hey, Uncle Ludwig, that means monetarily. That doesn't mean Karl is, stays with you all the time, right?
Yeah. and Ludwig also would have to stay in a haunted house overnight.
Right.
Almost
And let me tell you,
spat out my drink.
let me tell you, that Casper wasn't nearly as friendly as they said he was.
Yeah. Yeah, a ghost that dies of consumption is not a friendly ghost.
That's how the original Casper died. Yeah. Tuberculosis.
I promise you it was.
Yeah.
Ludwig, though, did not see it this way. He petitioned to get full custody of his nephew Karl, and because he was really well connected with nobility, he had no problem basically dragging 9-year-old Karl, kicking and screaming, from his mother's house to come stay with deaf, crazy Uncle Ludwig.
I'm gonna raise the boy.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that he would want that.
Yeah, well,
he's like,
it was like a fantasy he always kind of had. Like, he had this, like, you know, growing up the way he did, and you know, his weird rejection complex. Like, he just wanted somebody that would love him unconditionally. Mm-hmm. Because no one did, you know, in his life.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
That's why I want a kid.
You know, I mean, I'm sure that there was at least some amount of, like, you know, I'm gonna teach this kid music. Like, I'm sure he wanted like an heir, you know, like someone to, you know, learn his craft and be the next Beethoven, and someone he could torture into a life like his, you know.
Yeah. The thing was, he absolutely did that. He tried to teach Karl to be a virtuoso, but Karl was not gifted musically. He just didn't have the interest. He just wasn't a musical person. And it was clear to everyone, and Beethoven really wanted it to be true. It was clear to Beethoven, too. And everyone was like, oh, dude, you gotta stop. You know, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, this kid is not gonna progress over this hump here. He just isn't, you know? Yeah. And he wanted it to be true for a long time. The thing is 1815, when he becomes guardian of Karl, to about 1820, there is sort of this era of silence, these 5 years of silence, where he almost doesn't write anything. And I say almost, because there's still some really cool shit that comes from this era. The Hammerklavier comes from this era, which the Hammerklavier, which just means piano. The crazy thing about it is, because the writer of it, the composer of it, couldn't hear it, the Hammerklavier itself transcends what the piano could do at the time. So at the time, you couldn't accurately play the Hammerklavier. It just wasn't possible, you know, but because he was like, well, you know, in an ideal world, you know, he wrote that, you know. He also wrote the Diabelli variations, which are, some music historians call the greatest keyboard variations ever written. And he dedicated those to Anthony Brentano, who is like suspect number one for the Immortal Beloved, right?
Right.
So there were at least two tremendous things that come from this time, but it was a difficult time. His health wasn't very good. He pretty much just never recovered his health. His hearing only got worse. He became more paranoid and more delusional than he would really ever be in his life. And his music, which is noted by a lot of music historians, his music is not reflective, really, of like the crazy shit happening in his life. He was in and out of court all the time, you know, and just, I mean, that must have been difficult to come up with all of that music and then be in and out of court all the time. It just is crazy. Ludwig was not a good father, turns out. He was fickle. One moment he could be loving. Another moment he could be a raging, towering inferno. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially when he's trying to teach someone, you know, clavier, who just does not have any sort of musical knack. yeah, Carl was definitely torn between his mother and his uncle. He felt like he had to love his uncle, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways. But his uncle needed help, like, around the house. He was a total fucking slob. He was clumsy. He couldn't hear for shit. And, you know, Carl really thought he was helping his uncle in a lot of ways, like, on the day-to-day, you know? But the thing is Johanna was not going to let that happen taking down. She was going to fight it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that she kept, like, petitioning it and things like this, and she kept trying to see Carl. And so what Ludwig did is he put Carl in a boarding school pretty much right away.
He's like, if I can't raise him, nobody can.
Yeah. It was the Giantazios. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. The Giantasio del Rio boarding school. It was for this, like, well-to-do family. They ran a boarding school. Beethoven was friends with them. In fact, little Fanny Giantasio, she was the only person, the only female to ever actually express an admiration and a love and a want to be with Ludwig. The only documented person to ever do so.
She probably didn't know him all that well.
Yeah, right. I think she just had, like, a teenage fantasy, right, about this sort of genius composer.
She probably, then this is, like, late in his career, too. Like, he's shown, like, she probably was like, oh, he's just a... he has the passion, you know, the passion.
Yeah. He's like this.
He's a tortured genius. Yeah,
exactly. This mysterious genius.
She'll grow out of that shit.
Well, she definitely did, and it's actually pretty heartbreaking because she had an older, better-looking sister. That Beethoven was actually interested in, Therese Giannatasio. And honestly, to read Fanny Giannatasio's diaries about this, it's really heartbreaking. You know, like, oh, he's interested in my sister. And, like, it's like, well...
Oof.
Yeah. In a way, you want to be like, Beethoven, dude. But then again, it's like, dude, she's like 15, so...
Yeah.
You know?
She would have probably been... saying the same thing about the Beatles if she was a kid at that time.
Oh, totally. Right? It was one of those.
It's just one of like a teenage crush kind of thing. I just feel like Beethoven, he was one of those guys who was like a dick all the time and then didn't understand why everybody had an issue with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you just be like, that's who I am, guys. I'm just being myself. I'm expressing myself.
Yeah, no, it's the classic.
What's wrong with it's your fault for not liking me?
Yes, yeah, totally.
It's the classic. You know the classic turn of phrase. That's like, if you leave the house in the morning and you meet an asshole, you met an asshole.
Yeah.
If you leave the house in the morning and everybody you meet's an asshole, you're the asshole.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, that's that's like the classic thing. You know. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I feel like that's Beethoven.
Oh, absolutely.
In a nutshell, he goes around just being like, everybody's such an asshole. Nobody understands me. Nobody. People get mad at me just because I'm brutally honest. Like,
he's
one of those people. Like, if you can't handle my brutal honesty.
He basically thinks
he's my best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's fucking Marilyn Monroe. He is Marilyn Monroe, not having sex with Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
He couldn't. It wouldn't happen.
Not in a million years. But so what happened is Beethoven was able to take all these cases to the like higher up nobility Landrecht, which handled those nobility like cases, right? And the thing is Ludwig let slip that the Van in his name is the Flemish Van, not the German von.
Mm-hmm.
And so the court was like, oh, wait, what? Van, not Von? You know what that means? That means that you are not noble and we cannot hear your case.
And you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah. It was a big humiliation for him because he had this ongoing delusion that his mother may have like had an extramarital affair with the emperor, and that he was a product of that, making him like the bastard child of the like emperor. Ridiculous stuff, because again, he venerated his grandfather. If that were true, that his grandfather wouldn't actually be his grandfather. It just doesn't make any sense. He was clearly like there, it was like a rumor that was going around, and like his friends would be like, you gotta like tell people that you're not the emperor's son, dude, because we all know that you're not the emperor's son. You just gotta like say so.
He's like, I am.
Yeah.
My mom said I was.
Yeah.
It's like the Joker. Remember, his mom thinks he's the son of Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's just not true, and he was kind of forced to admit all of that stuff. They had to take the whole case to civil court, where commoners get to argue it out, right?
Yeah, they're going on Judge Judy.
Yeah, right. They're going to Judge Judy, People's Court.
Yes.
Judge Wapner. Oh, there's a reference that nobody will get.
Yeah, Judge Wapner. Nobody. Yeah, who's the newest People's Court?
I have no idea.
Oh, what was her name after Judge Wapner?
I don't know. I always think of Judge Reinhold from Arrested Development.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm Judge Reinhold.
Judge Reinhold. Yeah.
Talk about before its time, huh? You want to talk about comedy before its time?
There you
absolutely.
go.
Jesus.
And in the meantime of all of this, all of these court battles, Carl like would run away from boarding school or run away from his uncle and go back to his mother, and it was clear that he wanted to be with his mother, right? And like they had this big court case where Carl testified, and he has this remarkable sense of honesty where he's like, I would like to be with my mother. I would like to be with my uncle. My uncle kind of treats me like shit, but my uncle needs my help. I really want to see my mom now. And they ruled in favor of Johanna. And she got Carl back for a time. So what happened then was Beethoven like pulled out his big guns. And the big guns were the Archduke Rudolph that he's been like tutoring in piano this whole time, right? And once that happens, it goes all the way to the top. It goes all the way to the emperor at that point. And Beethoven got Carl again. And it's pretty horrible because...
The poor kid.
Yeah, and what he did to Johanna and to Carl, like, it is fucking terrible, It is just so bad because, like Johanna even like tried to petition the emperor again, and nothing worked, right? And it's like, it's so bad because he was totally better off with his mom, even after all these boarding schools, because he wasn't necessarily a good student. He was acting out a lot because, all of this
almost
horrible
like
stuff's happening.
His home life fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Exactly. As we sort of approach the 1820s, Beethoven had worked on a few things in this time, but he was working on something bigger, something that it was going to be huge, and everyone was waiting for it. It had, by the time it came out, it had been a full decade, over a decade, when the new symphony was coming out. And Beethoven was like, the Viennese are a bunch of assholes, as I've said a million times.
I just leave the house and everyone's an asshole.
So I'm going to premiere this new symphony in Berlin. And they wrote a public letter. All these people came together and signed their name on it and wrote this public letter begging Beethoven to have the premiere of his Ninth Symphony in Vienna. And at first, he was really pissed off because he was like, it was sort of exposing him for his double dealing, like business deals that he's been doing. And once that kind of died down, he was like, this actually makes me feel pretty good inside. The fact that they really want me to be here, It's like, Jesus, you're such an asshole.
I feel that if he lived in Berlin, he would just like, I hate Berliners. They're all assholes.
Oh, yeah.
I go outside, everybody's an asshole.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's like, I'm being myself as best I can, and they're being assholes.
Yeah.
He finds his fucking shittiness endearing, and
Yeah.
just doubles down in every opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that he did in fact use one of those ear horns.
Like in the cartoons.
Yeah, because Metzel actually invented one. Because like that's what he invented, like was like the ear horn. And Beethoven, when he sued him, he was like, "It doesn't work for shit," and threw it away. Anyway, I forgot to mention that. And it was around this time, though, you know, he was very unpopular. He was out of style. Rossellini was the big thing at this time. You know, Barber of Seville had just come out, and it was a smash hit, you know what I mean? Rossellini was actually afraid to meet Beethoven. He had heard all the rumors, heard all the stories.
Heard the truth
yeah,
about him.
Yeah.
he had. Right. And when he did go to meet him, like he goes, we went up to this room. It was dirty as hell. There was shit everywhere. And he was standing over these papers and he was making corrections furiously. And when we got his attention, he turned around and he was the nicest man in the world to me. He was like, Rossini. He's like, you're Barber of Seville. That's going to be played as long as Italian opera exists, man. That is some good shit. I read over it. It looks really good, man. And like they had a hug and like
got him on a good day.
Yeah, something like that. But he had mentioned something about like sadness. But he's like, oh me, you know, something like that. And Rossini, like, I don't know, he felt it in a way because he didn't make it down the stairs out of his place without crying. And like they asked him about it later, like Wagner asked him about it, and he was like, I don't know, there was just something about him, like, yeah, like all that shit was probably true, but he had the capacity to be like really nice and warm to people, but there was definitely this underlying sadness that I just couldn't get out of my head after meeting him.
I cannot talk about it without crying.
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot talk about it without crying. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Hey, you mentioned Wagner. Wagner's man, we could do a whole nother series on Wagner.
Oh my God, yes.
That dude is spectacular.
Yeah.
I love his whole story, man. He's like, just
crazy
fantastic.
Shit. Yeah.
But
anti-Semite.
Oh my God. Yeah.
There's a couple of those in history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Rossini, of all people, him having that like connection with. But I do think is that I was going to ask you, is that you saying that Barber of Seville was going to be played as long as Italian opera exists? You know, like
that's what Beethoven said. That's what Beethoven said. Yeah.
Because that almost feels like a Beethoven style dig. Not to Rossini, but to Italian opera.
Yeah. Well, Beethoven sort of famously didn't really like Italian opera.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of wanted it to go away.
So he's like, in his mind, he's like, it'll be played for the next 5 years.
Yeah, right.
Because,
it could have been a Beethovenian dig. Although
Beethovenian, I like that.
Yeah. I was not the one
Beethovenian burn.
Yeah.
The Beethoven.
Yeah. I was not the one to coin Beethovenian.
Well, of course, yeah. But
I think Beethoven. I can't even say
Beethovenian burn.
Yeah, that we can. Aaron can take credit for that one.
We can put our stamp on that one. Yeah.
He may have liked Barber of Seville. I don't know. He definitely seemed like he did. You know.
No, he probably did, but like reluctantly, and that's I think why that was a burn against Italian opera, not Rossini. That he was like, this is the best thing to come out of this shit genre. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know.
Yeah. Now, during his sort of late years, what they call his third reinvention, he was in debt a lot. His tailor sued him because, he was constantly wearing threadbare clothes. And when he got new clothes, he just never paid his bill. So his tailor sued him. All these things. He was forced to sell a few of his bank shares, which were worth a lot at the time, to pay off some of these debts. He was having a lot of money troubles later on in his life. It was around 1822 when Anton Schindler, who we've been talking about, became his unpaid sort of lackey, secretary, is what he called himself. there is a biographer that says, quote, Beethoven greatly appreciated his assistants, but did not think much of him as a man. End quote. And yeah, the conversation books definitely reflect that, where they're like, dude, you fucking piss me off sometimes, man. Like, Beethoven would say this, and then they would have a big separation, you know, they'd come back together, you know?
Yeah.
This is something that Carl talks about, too, was how annoying Beethoven was during this time. How he was almost stone deaf. And he would go around just singing tunelessly because he couldn't hear himself really. So he would just go around way too loud, going ba 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 ba, like obnoxiously, and he's like, I'm getting real fucking tired of this shit. You know what I mean? You know. But as time grew on, like, Beethoven's health like only got worse. He had untreated Crohn's disease. You know, he had a litany of problems. You know, chronic back pain, chronic diarrhea, stomach ache, gut issues. My goodness, jaundice. He had a bout of jaundice. His liver was god awful. He was drinking that leaded wine. He was getting lead poisoning. Like in it, like. The man was just riddled with sickness.
Sure, that didn't help his mood.
No, but for some reason it didn't make his music suffer. Like, in fact, it sort of sharpened his, like, his creative mind. You know what I mean? So the big concert for the Ninth Symphony was set to be on May 7th, 1824. And it was going to be, you know, the big one. And Beethoven did the same thing where he, like, ran around and you know, he was really frustrated with everything beforehand. And everyone in the, you know, in the whole orchestra, they were all instructed, like, don't look at him, don't say anything to him.
No eye contact.
Don't do anything. And, like, he was, like, sitting, like, they like, sat him next to the stage because he tried to play piano, like try to improvise piano as late as 1822, and it was not working out, right? He was definitely, like, out of the woods for composing, right? So they had him sit next to the side, and at one point, like, at the very beginning of the concert, he gets up and he stands sort of in front of the conductor, and they're like, whatever he's doing, don't look at him, look at the real conductor, right? And he's doing his Beethoven thing where he stretches up at the loud parts and then he goes all the way down for the small parts and he's swinging his arms around and all this stuff. And, you know, everyone's trying not to pay attention to him. And even though everyone had been told not to go anywhere near him, not to say anything to him, a contralto named Carolyn Unger turned him around so that he was able to see the big, like, standing ovation, the cheers that the Ninth Symphony got, because that's what he valued. He valued those, you know, applause. That's what he wanted. That small moment was a definitive, like, capstone on his life. It didn't last very long, though. He got home, he was exhausted. He was shown how much they made from the concert, and he collapsed. They didn't make much at all. It was just another financial failure for him. He slept all night, like, in the same place, like, where they left him, on, like, his bed, in the same clothes, until he woke up the next day. Like, he was so tired from the whole thing, and just wanted to, like, get by it, you know? A lot of people are like, well, that was the last thing he ever did, you know, there was all this that, you know, no, he actually had 16 straight string quartets afterwards, which we'll talk about here in a second. But, don't stop there, because he didn't stop there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely took the steam out of him a little bit, you know what I mean? It was well received, absolutely. Instant acclaim. To this day, people use it literally for any occasion. It was played as the Nazis, walked through Berlin. It was played when Hitler died. It was played, when Mao took control of China. It's now played in Japan at Christmas time,
Yeah.
It's played at the Olympics to show, unity, it's crazy how much that it's used for.
I mean, it's funny because I'm a weird as a musician, and I honestly equate it to, and hear me out here, I equate it to Andrew WK.
I'm hearing you out.
Yeah, I'm very interested.
Hear me out, right? I honestly, I love the Ninth Symphony, but not because of the ending and the Ode to Joy. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I like the ending is in context of the beginning, because the opening of the Ninth Symphony is my favorite.
It's great.
It's that approximation of the chaos of an orchestra warming up.
Right.
It sounds like chaos, and then there are these big moments of coherence, these like punches through the chaos of these big, loud, full chords,
right?
Where everything comes together for a minute, and it very much to me feels like sort of a metaphor for fighting through, honestly, mental health and struggles,
Sure,
these moments of being mired in chaos and having, as someone who I personally have struggled with all kinds of mental health stuff, those moments where you're sitting on the couch and it feels like all you can do, you can't even stand up. And you have these moments where you're like, no, fuck, get up, do something. You know what I mean? That's how the opening of the Ninth feels to me. And then
totally.
And then the ending, the Ode to Joy, to me feels like an overly positive, punch against these struggles.
Sure.
It's so big and positive.
What do they call that toxic positivity?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and this is why. I mean, I don't know if you guys know much about Andrew WK, but that dude has horrendous mental health issues, so bad.
I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, oh yeah, and if you watch some interviews with him, there are some where you can tell that dude is in the throes of a huge depressive episodes. He has major problems, and his first album, I Get Wet, that is this crazy, weird, super positive heavy metal thing. It's in a we talked. I feel like I talked about this a couple episodes ago, right? Where it's all in a major. It's all in major keys.
Yeah.
So it sounds so weird to us because it's heavy metal, but it's all in major keys and all about partying and everything. And he has said in interviews and stuff that all that music is him aggressively punching against his depression, him being no,
it doesn't sound too different from Beethoven, honestly. I mean, saying that art saved him,
yeah, it's 100% similar, in that I'm gonna force this positivity to just literally punching against my own mental issues, you know what I mean? And that's how the Ode to Joy feels to me, honestly.
Oh, I hear that a lot.
Way over the top, hopeful thing, and
it feels. Well, I don't know that much about music, but I know what I like, and I've listened to the Ninth a lot in my life. I think I said in the last episode that my parents had the CD, and I would just fucking bump that all the time, and I really. In the fourth movement, this sort of Ode to Joy sequence, everybody's heard that a billion times.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The way it does feel like this, it has force to it, it has this, the parts where it's you can, where it's playing, you can just hear it, boom, 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 and then it goes back, and then it just, it comes, and then it comes back and hits you in the face with it, and it's when it brings it back, the second time after dropping it, it's exactly how it feels. It's almost like this, in all the chaos and just, I don't know, darkness of life, there's this force that of almost I guess a good way, violent positivity.
Right.
to fight back against that.
And that's exactly why
I totally
it gets
get what you're
used.
saying.
That's exactly why it gets used for all this stuff, because it's literally like it is the picture of a triumph of willpower. Is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
like,
good way to put it.
It's like, and it was the reason why it applies so well to all these like, you know, triumphant moments is because it was written by a man who that piece of music was in that moment a triumph
Right.
of his own willpower against his own struggles,
Well,
right?
Against his own fate. Yeah, right.
Well, yeah,
The
exactly.
interesting thing is,
Like-
it's like you were saying, it's like the original concert. Apparently, like they loved it. It was critically acclaimed, but it didn't make a lot of money. And it's like him like blowing that like triumph out and in a way that's intended to be cathartic was only cathartic for a moment,
Right.
And it's like he's like, oh well, the darkness of life, still kind of sank back in.
Oh yeah. And that's how it all. That was the story of the motherfucker's life,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very well I put, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a very good. I've also suffered with a mental illness. I think everyone actually has. It just our generation is kind of the first to actually acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
But it's like I think that's why the Ninth has, and the whole thing is fucking great. Like, you people at home listen to the entire Ninth. It's fucking fantastic piece.
So good.
Seventh is good too, but I'm a Ninth guy.
I also like listening to the Clockwork Orange version of it, just as a change, because I don't know, I like it. It's
I like Clockwork Orange, and I think its use in that is it's still like if you were to say that the moments of that, just the punching, like I would say like the punching through darkness.
Yeah.
The character Alex in that is darkness, and his weird appreciation for that almost seems like weirdly ironic,
Oh,
because I think he is a force for like chaos and darkness, and then he takes the ode
Did you guys
joy.
I know you guys are I know you guys are movie guys. Do you guys ever read the book, Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a lot different.
It has a little bit. The ending's different. It's kind of like
the end.
Yeah.
The ending is it's a SLC Punk ending. The ending is where he has grown up and he's like looking back at his and he's like looking back, being like, I
don't want to do that anymore.
I was just like a silly kid, kind of thing, It's a funny. It becomes almost a weird like coming of age kind of thing, like it's.
Oh, totally.
Where like generations have to like amp up. Like how much, it goes.
The movie cuts out that essentially final chapter where it's sort of him, and ultimately makes the movie have almost the exact opposite meaning.
Yeah, right.
Since you don't have that last.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's Kubrick can get away with that. He can make it's like.
Yeah, Kubrick can make source material say something else that may or may not be more profound,
too,
or at least as equally as profound.
And I will say also that we've talked about this before in regards to Beethoven, but Anthony Burgess, who wrote Clockwork Orange, he famously was like that's like my least favorite thing I've ever written. Like
right.
And it was by far his most popular thing. So
It's like Radiohead with Creep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
But the Ninth really sent him back into sort of a stratosphere of fame, right? Even though he was out of style and all of these things, like this whole thing sent him back to the tippy top, right? Now, the Ninth is based off of a text, Friedrich Schiller's Les Ans de Freude, Ode de Joy. Right, it's a revolutionary text, and there is rumors that joy was supposed to be freedom. Right, it's supposed to be this Aufklärung message, this revolutionary sort of message. It's not true. It was always Ode to Joy. Beethoven didn't have to change it because of the censors. That was sort of a rumor that was later passed around. But the thing was, is he was sort of back in demand for a hot second. He dedicated all of his time to string quartets. The only time in his life that he dedicated one genre. He wrote 16 of these late string quartets. One of them, which I think might be most notable just on maybe an art scale, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the grosse fugue, or the grosse fugue, or the grand fugue. Basically, like Aaron's like basically said this every episode. The fugue itself was this rule-bound genre that was made in the Baroque era. And it was monothematic. You talked about one thing and one thing only, right? You went to one place and one place only, and it was marked by non-stop just going, right? Like, Bach was the master of the fugue, right? The master of the fugue. Beethoven's favorite composer was Bach, right? So the grosse fugue was not monothematic. It was multi-thematic. It was supposed to be the third movement for a different piece, and other people were like, let's not put that as a third movement, because like they'd be like, oh, they love the first movement and the second movement, and he'd be like, what about the grosse fugue? And they'd be like, not so much. Can we take it out and maybe... And he was like, okay. For the first time, he actually listened to what people said and changed his music. The first and I think only time he ever did that was with the grosse fugue.
Just quickly, like, about the fugue, what's important to remember, like, I mean, just for people that don't know what a fugue is, it starts out with one single line melody, every fugue. And then what happened, we call that the,
the
statement? We call it the statement. Yeah. It's got a word, I don't remember.
And then there's the recapitulation at the end. Yeah.
No, there's not. It's the same statement happens again in another voice. It's the exact same melodic line that happens again later. And it's a puzzle. A well-written fugue is a puzzle. It is you write one single line that you can start again and layer again and again and again.
Like almost like a variation?
Harmonizes perfectly. Like it's like a complicated, we would call it a round or a canon. For instance, a row, row, row your boat. You know how you can sing row, row, row your boat, and you can start a round where you sing row, row, row your boat, and then someone else starts row, row, row your boat, and you can layer it together, and it harmonizes, and you sing through these phrases. That is a round or a canon. That is essentially a very small, short version of a fugue. If you were to stretch that out into a melodic line that was, 16, 32 bars long, and you play that one melodic line in one voice, and then it comes in another voice at some point, playing the exact same melodic line.
Right.
It's, there's actually, if anyone listening is interested, there are some really, really cool videos that take Bach fugues and visualize them.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, on YouTube, and you can watch the melodic line. The subject, that's what it's called. Sorry.
The subject.
This melodic line that a fugue is built off is called the subject, and it'll always starts off, like, for instance, one of his
like Bach's most famous fugue, right? Like the
so that's toccata and fugue, and that opening part you were singing is the toccata. That is not a fugue. That's different. Then later it comes in with the fugue, but I mean, I can't think of it. I think it's like in D minor or something. They'll have names like that, but there's one very famous he does that's the subject is like bum 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 bum. Nope, I'm singing something different now. Whatever, but like, anyways, that's a fugue is a puzzle is the point. It's not Bach. The reason why Bach was so renowned for them is because he could write them in a way that felt like emotional and expressive and all these things, but at their core, a fugue is like a purely technical exercise in songwriting.
Right.
It is like
like variation or counterpoint or things like that.
Well, counterpoint, yes, and that's also something Bach is very famous for being very good at. But it's not like it's not an expressive form of writing. It just like isn't. by design. And it's almost like musicians' music, where it's like a musician, a composer can listen to a fugue and be like, oh, wow, this is crazy. And like, this is cool. I can see what he's doing here technically. But like to the average person, they're not going to necessarily understand what is going on, you know.
Well,
and again, that's why Bach was so famous and renowned for them, is because he could do it in a way that was, you know, something people wanted to actually play. But anyway.
Well, the Grosse Fugue was multi-thematic and about, you know, like he took all that shit that you just said and he like chucked it out the window and made it like way more complex. And too complex. People just didn't get it at the time. They were just mystified by it. You know, they didn't know what to think, didn't like it. It was just sort of an assault, you know what I mean, on the ears.
It's like, you know, those like heavy metal bands with the really, really intricate
Crazy
signatures.
logos.
Like, what's the band I'm
math
thinking
rock
of?
stuff, like
Yeah, there's a name.
Meshuggah.
Meshuggah is the band I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yeah, they're the one, especially you said metal. I mean, you said metal for sure. So I was like, that's Meshuggah he's talking about. Yeah.
It is. Yes.
I mean, that's exactly it. That's, you know, I talk about this all the time. It's funny, like, 'cause I go to obviously tons of metal shows and all kinds of stuff, and there's like the level of complexity in stuff like that, like, is reflected in the crowd. If it's like just good metal that like whatever makes you want to bang your head, people are like dancing and like slam dancing, whatever. If it's like technical, like that, like Meshuggah kind of stuff, the entire crowd is standing perfectly still with their arms crossed and just like staring at the guitarist's hands the whole
They're
time.
sneering.
And like, and once in a while they'll nod. Yeah,
They'll nod at each other like,
yeah.
You're pretty good,
that was
right?
cool what he just did. Like, it's very much like guitarists' music.
Well, in July of 1826, Carl Van Beethoven had pretty much just about enough of his uncle Ludwig. So what he did was he, because basically his uncle was having him followed. Ludwig was terrified.
So
Yeah, I know, right? He was terrified that Carl was visiting ladies of the night, just like Ludwig did. You know, like
yeah, but it's different.
His hypocrisy is kind of nuts. But so he almost like kept him prisoner. You know, he didn't want him doing anything. He didn't want him going out or anything like that. So he had him followed. He was basically kept prisoner. So Carl pawned his watch, and he bought 2 pistols.
Oh, no.
He went to this place, the 29th of July. He went to this lookout in Baden, and he took the first pistol, and he put it to his head, and he pulled the trigger, and it clicked. So he took the second pistol, put it to his head, and it went off. But he held it at too steep of an angle, and the cartridge, like the bullet itself, like became lodged in his scalp.
Oh no!
And just grazed the side of his head. So he was bleeding, but he was alive. It was, some people say, you know, it was more of a cry for help, which it probably was more so, but it's hard to, you know, say. It's hard to say now, you know, or really even then. And a passing wagon driver actually discovered his body and took him to his mother's place. He requested to go to his mother's place, not his uncle's. And when his uncle got there, you know, people are questioning him, right? You know, like, why'd you do it? Why did you do it? And Carl said, quote, "My uncle has tormented me so much. I became worse because my uncle wanted me to become better."
Oh, God.
End quote.
That poor kid.
Yeah. He would always comb his hair over his scar throughout the rest of his life. 1826, how old would he be? Early 20s, I want to say.
Yeah.
Now, Beethoven's health just kept getting worse, especially after this suicide attempt. He got very depressed. Carl went to his mother. Something Carl always wanted to do, instead of play music, was join the army, the Austrian army. And Beethoven wouldn't let him. and he wanted to do it, and he did. And he had an okay military career, but the thing is right after the suicide attempt, his health went straight downhill. He started to get what they called at the time dropsy. It's when there's a fluid buildup in your abdomen. You have this big belly, right? Mm-hmm. A doctor that he knew came over to his house. The way they put it at the time, they said they tapped him. They basically poked a hole in his abdomen and drained the fluid out. They drained an astounding 150 pounds of fluid from his abdomen, which I could not fucking imagine. That sounds so fucking painful. And the thing is like, he had all of this pain and all of this stuff while he wrote some of the most important music in music history. It's just fucking insane. And with this, mental issues as well, it's astounding. He even called his doctor Moses from like parting the waters. It's so fucking disgusting. His death was a slow and miserable death. A lot of people came around at that time. His brother Johann, they were not on the best of terms. Him and his brother were not.
You don't say.
His housekeeper at the time, because he went through housekeepers, as we said, a lot, where he would get really mad at one, try to injure the housekeeper. The housekeeper sometimes would have to run from the house. Sometimes he would forget to pay the housekeeper. He just was not... he was not focused on the housekeeper unless they fucked up, and then he would get really mad. But I guess there was one towards the end of his life named Sally. And there was even one person that said, "Oh, Mrs. Beethoven." And it was a mistake. It was actually his housekeeper, Sally. Mm-hmm. But maybe they were closer. I don't know. Beethoven was in his early 50s, as he's sort of in the last stages of his life.
Wouldn't that be the ultimate hypocrisy, though, if, like, after what happened with his brother, he's banging the housekeeper?
Right. Well, and there is sort of an element to that. I'll show that to you later. He ordered some Rhineland wine because he wanted to taste the wine from his hometown of Bonn. Mm-hmm. And when the wine did arrive, Anton Schindler brought it in, and he was incapable of drinking it by this point. And Beethoven said, quote, "Pity, pity, too late," end quote. And those were his last words. He lived on for a few more days, but that was the last time he would ever speak. There was a storm around these last days. It was this really bad rain and thunderstorm. And on his last day, the 26th of March, 1827, his eyes sprang open, his fist raised in the air, and he sat up in bed, and according to legend, thunder clapped, and he fell back in his bed and was dead.
Yeah.
It's probably real.
Yeah. He was 56. He died. A lot of people have argued about what actually killed him, because it could have been a lot of things.
He had a lot going on.
But the doctor that was there at his death said it was cirrhosis of the liver.
Oh boy.
Because not only did he have a history of alcoholism in his family, bad genes basically, but yeah, he drank a lot. He wasn't an alcoholic like his father was, or his grandmother was, but he had the bad genes, and he drank a bit, so there you go.
And there was lead in his wine.
Yeah, also that.
Yes, drinking lead and wine.
Yeah.
I prefer the unleaded.
Yeah.
That's a stupid joke.
We all do, I think. It's better for the engine.
Yeah.
No, some people say that there have been legends and rumors, right? One pervasive one is that none other than Johanna Van Beethoven, Johanna Ries, was at his deathbed when he died. And they say that she is the immortal beloved. And why do they say that? Because they thought that maybe either Beethoven was jealous of his brother, or that maybe they had a thing before his brother and Johanna got together. Who knows? Probably bullshit because of everything else. However, when Johanna remarried and had another child, which did exclude her from Carl, any sort of Beethoven having to do with, she basically moved on, right? By doing this, by remarrying and all of this. She had a daughter, and her daughter was named Ludwiga.
Oh, I see you're really burying the lead there, Jerry.
Yeah. Now, why she named her Ludwiga, we don't know. But it's quite the thing to think about, right?
You know? I mean, could be nothing. Could be everything.
Who knows?
You know what I'm saying?
Who knows?
I mean, that's a dumb name.
Right?
Like, there's no way that she would just, like, pull that out of nowhere, you know?
It was after Ludwig. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting indeed. Curiouser and curiouser.
So, when he died, Anton Schindler and his brother Johann went through all of his shit, and they found the Heiligenstadt Testament, and they found the Immortal Beloved letter. This is how we have them, right? What they were looking for, though, was his banknotes. And what they found was his will. And in his will, it said that Carl van Beethoven was the sole heir of the Ludwig van Beethoven estate. So he got a comfy inheritance there. He would go on to marry. He had a modestly successful military career. He had 5 children, 4 daughters, and 1 son named Ludwig.
Yeah.
Yep. And he died of liver disease.
Well, there we go.
So there you go. Ludwig actually
really passed on his legacy there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Little Ludwig actually acted up a lot in school, which should tell you something about the cascading, trauma that happens.
Familial trauma.
Yeah, familial trauma, yeah. Now, from anywhere between 10 and 30,000 people turned up for Beethoven's funeral. People even said, like, the Viennese liked a good funeral. It was a giant party.
Just like, finally that prick is dead.
Yeah, right? But if it's something that we can learn from all of his work and something that, Beethoven has sort of given us, what he proved in his Ninth Symphony was, like, using, like, choral voices and in a symphony, which is crazy. I mean, that's shattering the distinctions between orchestrals and operas and, anything that has to do with voices and purely instrumental work. Like, putting the two together in the same genre was completely crazy for the time. But it made people realize, at least the Romantics and everyone afterwards, that artistic expression and originality always took precedence over tradition. And that is exactly what Beethoven has given us in music.
Well, yeah.
As a whole.
I mean, that's why they say he was the father of the Romantic era, right? It was this need for expression.
Yeah.
And then the one other thing, just you talking about we hadn't talked about it yet, but using choral voices in symphonic works like that. There were, for many years, I mean, Bach even wrote some. You call them oratorios.
Yeah, oratorio, but that's for that, right?
Exactly.
A symphony does not have an oratorio in it.
No, so oratorios were essentially religious operas,
Right.
really. So they were like they tell a story. They have orchestral accompaniment. It's a we call it a non-dramatic opera. There's no costumes and there's
Right.
no like acting on stage, but there are soloists. They do tell stories. They play characters, etc.
Right.
But they're very much religious. So part of the sort of the sound of using those choral voices was religious.
Right.
So it was this content that was about the triumph of the human spirit. This was a sound that was religious. At the time, it would have sounded very like a religious experience to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It was this, etc. So it was had a lot of things.
Well, and
going for it, but-
music historians have since parsed together Beethoven's views on God and whether or not he thought of God in the same way as we do sort of now. He thought of God more as a Aufklärung sort of God, right? It was sort of this periphery omnipresence, right? But man's action was the real thing, right? And the
Right.
things that come close to God are things like art and music, right?
Right.
That's what brings you close to God. So like there was even like a friend of his that like wrote this whole thing and it said with help of God, and he made a note next to it that said, "You poor man, help yourself." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of these music historians, when they think about the ninth and they see all of these religious ways of making the music, they basically, the way they justify it, the way they make it make sense is that Beethoven preferred to speak to God man on man, not between somebody. Right, there was
Sure.
nothing in between. It was a personal thing, right? It wasn't tied to any sort of rhetoric or a book or teachings or anything like that. It was way more personal. And if you're a fan of philosophy as well, it really is in line with sort of that trajectory of philosophy as well, which I find fascinating.
Sure,
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's very cool.
So
Very
yes,
cool stuff.
There we go.
And with
There it
that is our series on Ludwig van Beethoven.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. We did it.
We
did
did it.
Yeah. That was very interesting. I've always been a
Yay.
big fan of old Louis,
Oh yeah, me too.
But,
Luigi.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Luigi and his brother,
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening again. We are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon. We are sorry again that Tyler couldn't have been here to help us finish out the series, but, life happens. He got COVID, all kinds of things.
COVID.
He's busy, he's a kid. So life is,
COVID
he
with the kid,
prioritizes
man.
child above us, which we're...
Yeah, I see how it is.
Yeah, ridiculous. It is what it is. I am Christopher Whedon. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
I am a history boy.
Indeed. And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy as always. Thank you so much for joining us for this series on Beethoven. Let's see. Quick housekeeping. Follow us on all the social medias. You know what they are by now. You can get on our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You could be on Discord, which is fantastic. You can talk with us, share stuff with us. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy our Discord. $5 a month. You also get to have a month free of the Tyler and Chris show, basically.
Yeah, our Patreon show that we release monthly. Whenever we release an episode, we release it at the $5 level. If you want to listen to all of them at the $10 level, you get the
whole thing.
catalog.
Yeah.
But for a full month, then the most recent one will be available at the $5 level. So
That
you
makes
don't
sense.
have to do the $10 level if you don't want to listen. If you want to listen to the first one, but that's up to you. If you want to listen to all of them, it's at the $10 level.
Yeah. And let's see. Oh, let me talk about this real quick. I have a lot of listener submissions. And honestly, we have the best fans. Honestly, probably some of the smartest fans. They've sent me a lot of really challenging topics to cover. I'm going to get to it. And the thing is that some of them, they don't have any source material in English. So I'm going to have to work around that somehow. So they might come out a little bit later than you think. And I don't know, I've been kicking around this idea about maybe voting, like putting all of them into this one thing and everyone voting on what that would be. If you think that would be a good idea, go ahead and email us at historyboizpodcast@gmail.com, or if you just want to say hello, you can also do that as well. Historyboiz@gmail, or historyboizpodcast@gmail.com is that email again. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. I'm really curious to get your feedback on listener submitted stories, because I want to get to all of them, and because I love the fact that you guys are listening so much, I want to keep you listening, and I want to tell the stories that you want to hear. So, I don't know. I'm kicking this whole thing around, but we can figure all that out later. Let us know what you think, and I also want to thank again King Cyber Tiger himself, Mr. Aaron Weed. Thank you so much for being on these episodes.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been
imparting
a
your
lot
insight.
of fun.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. It's been cool to give some of this knowledge I've bounced around my head that I don't get to talk about very much.
yeah.
And it's just been really cool to do this last few. It's been a month and a half now of us doing a few episodes. But anytime you guys are doing anything
awesome.
that I might know a little bit about, I'd be happy to come back and do some more.
Fantastic.
Just one final plug. I have an album coming out. It'll be a Bandcamp exclusive release on June 3rd, and then a full release everywhere on June 18th. And I'm doing an album release show here in Seattle on June 18th.
Where's that going to be?
That will be at the Central Saloon,
at
actually.
The Central.
Yeah, so
all right.
the storied venue of Seattle grunge. I will not be playing grunge, but I'll be there.
Yeah.
So
enough grunge has been played there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's time for something new. But no. But if anyone is on Instagram, wants to follow me at Cyber Tiger Music, that would be great. That's where I post the bulk of my stuff. And thank you so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Any final words?
Absolutely. Just from me, and that would be, love you. Bye.
Yay.
We had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever.